How do you maintain a friendship with Bill Maher? Because you're very different on politics, I think.
Yeah, we've 30 years ago when he had his show Politically Incorrect, it was the first TV show I'd really ever done early in my career. And it's not like we stayed best friends through that, but, he's had me on his podcast and on his TV show, and I'm like, man, this is good to go. It's easy for me to go on Fox News. Everyone's so friendly and so nice. We kind of align with our thoughts. But I kind of like going into the lion's den a little bit and talking to people who differ than me and seeing, where we can connect on things and just try to be a little more civil. I've been one of the most polarizing figures out there. I know that. But I'm like, hey, maybe we can just try to be a little nicer to each other.
All right, so here's something you don't hear every day. Kid Rock and Bill Maher actually get along. Yeah, I know. That Bill Maher, the liberal comedian, and that Kid Rock, the patriotic, Trump-loving rock star who literally plays concerts draped in American flags. Now, politically, these two couldn't be further apart. But somehow, they've built a relationship that's lasted decades. Why? Because unlike most people in the public eye, Kid Rock isn't afraid to walk into a room full of people who disagree with him. He actually likes it. He says it pushes the conversation forward, makes things more interesting, and honestly, I think he's got a point. In a world where everyone lives in their own echo chamber, Kid Rock and Bill Maher hanging out might be one of the last signs that civil dialogue is still alive. So let's break this down. What does this unlikely friendship really tell us about the state of political discourse in America?
President Trump was joined at the White House by Kid Rock when Trump signed an executive order targeting ticket scalpers. And now look who's here on this program, the man, Kid Rock himself. Sir, we're going to get into ticket prices in a second, but first, I want to hear about your dinner with the president. What did you, Bill Maher, and Dana White and the president talk about?
It went so well. We talked about a lot of things that we had, which Bill Maher is a big, supporter of Trump's stance on the border, of ending wokeism. The president even asked him about policy, like what he thought with Iran getting a nuclear weapon and how Israel should react. Bill's a big supporter of Israel. We broke bread and talked about things we had in common, and it could not have been more cordial, more nice. I think everyone was so pleasantly surprised. I mean, it was so nice to have my friend Dana White there, and Dana goes, he told me, he goes, Bob, you did the right thing here. This was a good thing. Because everyone was suspect about it. Even the president had called me a few days ago. He goes, what the hell you got me doing here? And I'm like, we're just trying to break bread with some of our biggest critics and say, like, hey, it's okay to talk to one another. We can maybe bring a little bit of civility back to this country for reasonable people.
Let's be real. When you hear that Kid Rock, Donald Trump, and Bill Maher all sat down for dinner together, your first reaction is probably somewhere between, wait, what? And how did nobody get thrown out of the building? But according to Kid Rock, not only was the dinner peaceful, it was actually pleasant. Yeah, I know. It sounds like the setup to a political roast, but what actually happened was a rare moment of civility in American public life. Now, you've got to understand, these guys aren't political clones. Bill Maher is a long-time liberal commentator. Kid Rock's the rock rap outlaw, flying the mega flag. Trump's? Well, Trump. And yet, they somehow found common ground on things like border security, fighting off wokeism, and strong support for Israel. But here's what really caught my attention. Kid Rock said the whole point of getting everyone together was just to remind people it's okay to talk to someone you disagree with. Imagine that. In a world where people are getting cancelled over tweets and cutting off friends over Facebook posts, these guys sat down and talked like adults. Even the president, according to Kid Rock, was skeptical going in. But by the end of the night, everyone was surprised by how well it went. Kid Rock called it one of the neatest days of his life, and not because of the celebrity factor, but because it meant something. It was a symbolic moment. A show of unity in a time when unity is basically a punchline. So what does this tell us? Maybe we're not as doomed as Twitter makes us feel. Maybe all it takes to start healing some of these divides is sitting down with people you disagree with. Not to debate, not to win, but just to talk. And if that kind of conversation can happen between Maher, Trump, and Kid Rock, there's hope for the rest of us.
What do you make of Trump's tariffs on autos and auto parts coming into the country?
I think it's great. I think we should be making more of these cars in Detroit. You know, I know they make the Ford Raptor there and things, but I know there's other cars that are, you know, we design them in Detroit. It's some of the big three, and then the engines, and they're assembled in Canada or Mexico. And I think it's great for our auto workers, for everybody. For why wouldn't we want? And you know, and now the president's talking about, you know, giving people a tax break if they buy a car that's actually built in America. This is all great news for Detroit, in my opinion.
Did that come up for discussion last night?
No, we talked about that in the Oval Office a little bit, but no, dinner was dinner was awesome. It was weirdly so awesome that just to see, I mean, the president and Bill could not have been more engaged and just had such a nice conversation. And then one point I will make is Bill, you know, has obviously been a big supporter of so many, you know, of the left, you know, supporting, you know, Clinton and Kamala and Barack and everyone, and he had never been to the White House. And the president took us up to the private residence, and we were showing Bill the Gettysburg Address in the Lincoln bedroom. And I was like, "You've never been here?" And Bill was like, "No." And I was like, "Can you believe you're here with President Trump showing you around?" And he was like, everybody just knew it was a special, hopefully it's a special moment. It sets an example. You know, I never anticipated on trying to set a positive example in this country for something like this, but.
Yeah, you heard me right. The guy who once rapped about being a cowboy is now out here backing economic policy, and honestly, he's making some pretty solid points. Kid Rock came out swinging in support of Trump's stance on tariffs, especially when it comes to autos and car parts. And it makes sense. He's a Detroit guy, born and raised in the heart of American manufacturing, so of course he's gonna ride hard for the auto workers. This isn't just about policy for him, it's personal. He's basically saying, look, if we're designing cars here, assembling them in Mexico, and then importing the parts back in, what are we really doing? He wants those jobs, and that production to stay right here in the US, and he's not alone. That message plays well in places like Michigan, Ohio, and Pennsylvania, aka the Rust Belt battlegrounds. And here's the part that actually surprised me. He's not just pushing the usual Buy American line. He's talking about tax breaks for people who buy cars that are actually made in America. Not just branded American, actually made here. That's smart, incentivizing the average consumer while reinforcing the value of American labor. That's not just populist talking points, that's a legit policy idea. Now, whether or not tariffs work long term is a whole different debate. But from Kid Rock's perspective, this is about loyalty to your people. He's standing up for the folks who build things with their hands. And that's not just political, it's cultural.
I want to just get to one last one. Ticket scalping. Listen to what Mr. Trump had to say about the executive order on it. Roll tape, please.
It bothers a lot of other artists, too. You see,
does.
the artists, and they go out with a $100 ticket and it sells for $2,000 the following night. Ticket sales and scalping and all of the gouging that you have been reading about, that's gotten worse and worse with time. And I didn't know too much about it, but I checked it out, and it is a big problem. And I think you've been trying to get this done for 20 years or something. He said Trump got it done in 2 weeks. But we came up with a very serious EO.
I just wonder how you fix this when you've got enormous demand for a very limited supply of tickets. How do you decide who gets the tickets?
Well, it should be when you go into the queue to get tickets. Not everybody to a hugely popular show is going to get tickets, but as an artist, you know, we want to get, the majority of us want to get the prices we set into the hands of the fans at those prices. Yeah. I've been the first one to say, and the president hates it when I say, like, sir, I'm a little overpaid. I would rather be more of a hero to working class people so they can go to more shows. And this is the first step to really, you know, try to get the bots and the bad actors, the scalpers out of the way. Ultimately, and I'm a capitalist and a deregulation guy, but ultimately what I would like to see is get some legislation passed that puts a cap on the resale of concert tickets, like a 10% cap. And that eliminates all the BS and the bad actors right off the bat. So,
All right. Now let's talk about something every concert goer has raged about at some point. Ticket scalping. Ticket scalping. You know the drill. The show drops, you rush to buy tickets, you're in the queue, maybe you even click purchase, and boom, they're all gone. 2 minutes later, those same tickets are magically showing up on resale sites for 10 times the price. And Kid Rock, he's had enough of that nonsense. Now here's where it gets interesting. Kid Rock, the self-proclaimed capitalist, deregulation guy, is actually calling for a cap on ticket resale markups. That's right. The guy who waves the flag for free markets is saying, hey, we might need a little rule here. Specifically, he's proposing a 10% cap on resale markups. If you buy a ticket for $100, you can't turn around and flip it for $500 just because you have a bought and no sold. And look, that's not anti-capitalist, that's common sense. The current system is basically rewarding digital vultures for doing absolutely nothing except driving up prices and screwing over real fans. And Kid Rock's not just talking about this in theory. He's doing it because he wants his working class fans to actually be able to show up. He's like, I don't want to be overpaid. I'd rather be a hero to the blue-collar folks who made my career. That's a rare take in an industry that charges $400 for nosebleeds and calls it dynamic pricing. So here's the takeaway. Kid Rock isn't trying to destroy the free market. He's trying to protect the fans from a broken one. And honestly, that might be the most punk rock thing he's said in years. Thanks for watching.